What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Belal Muhammad throws shade at Colby Covington. At UFC 288, Belal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns stepped into the octagon in a highly anticipated title eliminator fight. After 5 hard-fought rounds, Muhammad had secured his place as the welterweight division's #1 contender, right behind Colby Chaos Covington. Despite his hopes of cutting the line and getting the next shot at Leon Edwards' welterweight title, the UFC has shown no indications of giving Muhammad the next crack at the title over Covington. From the sounds of things, the plan is for Covington to fight Edwards later this year, and then to have Muhammad fight the winner at a later date. The way Belal Muhammad sees things, Covington is likely getting a bit nervous given that he hasn't fought in over a year, and Leon Edwards could want to fight in Abu Dhabi, where Muhammad would likely be a bigger draw than Covington. During a recent interview with MMA Fighting, Muhammad threw shade at Covington, saying, "He sees that I just won this fight and the world sees I'm on a 10-fight winning streak. Took a fight on 3 weeks' notice. Went out there and beat the #5 fighter in the world. Last win is against #12 in the world, and he couldn't finish him, and he almost got knocked out. So now he's like, let me do 10 interviews in a row real quick and try to get some headlines." He's getting a little bit desperate, and that's what I like. I like that little fear in him. Initially, the expectation was that Leon Edwards would headline the UFC's upcoming return to London over the summer. However, there's been little indication of when or where this fight will take place now. The situation has split the MMA community in two. On one hand, Dana White's logic of Covington coming up shy in 2 title fights has many eager to see Covington get another crack at the belt, whether or not he deserves it. On the other hand, many think that Muhammad deserves the shot on merit, given his win streak and willingness to fight Gilbert Burns, who had secured himself a title shot with his win over Jorge Masvidal. Considering the fact that the UFC has not made any announcements regarding the fight, fans will be left to speculate as to how things will play out in the welterweight division this year. Alexander Volkanovski's bold prediction for Israel Adesanya. Recently, UFC President Dana White teased some pretty big news regarding middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. With former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker and streaking contender Dricus du Plessis set to compete in July in a title eliminator, and Israel Adesanya likely headlining the UFC's return to Sydney in September, the timeline for the winner of the Whittaker vs. du Plessis fight to compete against the middleweight champion just 2 months later doesn't line up. As White revealed during the UFC Fight Night Dern vs. Hill post-fight press conference, the promotion has an announcement regarding Adesanya that they plan to make soon. So far, the speculation is that Adesanya will compete against light heavyweight champion Jamal Hill. With his longtime rival Alex Pereira set to move up in weight to fight Jan Blachowicz, many have begun connecting the dots, predicting that if Adesanya and Pereira win, the UFC could book a trilogy fight with champ-champ status on the line. During a recent interview with the MMA Fan podcast, Volkanovski weighed in on the theories that the UFC could be eyeing a trilogy fight between Adesanya and Pereira.
You know, obviously 3 fights back-to-back isn't always good, like we've seen it before, but you don't really want them like that. So for them to do, if he was to go up, say win the light heavyweight title, and then they fight like for champ, like, you know, obviously the fight could be absolutely massive. Whether that's what the UFC are trying to plan on doing, I don't know, because that would be pretty clever. Obviously, given that
Adesanya and Pereira have seemingly reignited their rivalry as of late by trading barbs on Twitter, it'll be interesting to see what the future has in store for these 2 longtime rivals. Aljamain Sterling fires back at Sugar Sean O'Malley once again. Ever since the UFC brought streaking contender Sugar Sean O'Malley into the octagon for a stare-down following Aljamain Sterling's UFC 288 victory over Henry Cejudo, the trash talk between the two has reached a new level. With questions regarding the date for the fight and whether or not Sterling would be ready in time to compete at UFC 292, the animosity and trash talk between these two has been taken up several notches. In a recent video for his social media channels, Sterling watched a clip of O'Malley, writing that Sugar Sean has been absent from the octagon since his controversial UFC 280 win over Peter Yan, and as a result, has no room to question whether or not he's been active enough. In addition, Sterling once again confirmed that he'll be showing up on August 19th to compete at the TD Garden in Boston, putting to rest concerns that he won't be ready in time.
As I said, I'm going to show up August 19th. Not because of you, not because of the fans. I'm showing up because Dana is cutting the check for August 19th. Other than that, you call no shots. I call no shots. So let's stop pretending all this other nonsense.
With a short turnaround on the horizon for the Funkmaster, how do you see things playing out when he and Sean O'Malley step inside the octagon? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Michael Chandler recalls Dana White's reaction to UFC debut. In Michael Chandler's UFC debut, he picked up a spectacular, violent first-round knockout win over Dan Hooker. The fight earned Chandler plenty of fans and plenty of praise for his performance. However, after the fight, UFC President Dana White seemed just as blown away by Chandler's post-fight celebration. During a recent video on his YouTube channel, Chandler reflected on White's post-fight comments and the conversation the two had after the fact.
I was in the room when he said it. He's like, how about this effing guy? You know, he finally gets his shot in the UFC, knocks a guy out, and he wants to jump off the cage and do a backflip like both of his ankles and knees were gonna blow out. And he walked off the stage and walked to me. I was like, hey Dana, sorry about the backflip. It's kind of badass though, huh? He's like, yeah, it was. But
as Chandler revealed, he won't be doing any backflips off the cage should he beat Conor McGregor. However, he will continue to backflip to his heart's content from the canvas. Dricus du Plessis trolls Israel Adesanya. Ahead of Dricus du Plessis' title eliminator against Robert Whittaker, his back and forth with middleweight champion Israel Adesanya has continued to make headlines. Recently, du Plessis doubled down on his controversial comments, pointing out that he's the only top-ranked contender who lives, trains, and resides in Africa. In addition, du Plessis took aim at Israel Adesanya for taking umbrage with his comments, testing the middleweight champ for calling himself a Kiwi, an African, and even Chinese. He spoke in an interview with Submission Radio.
It seemed to have struck a nerve with Israel Adesanya because, it seems like he likes to be whatever fits him best, in terms of nationality. He's referred to himself as a Kiwi, he's referred to himself as a Chinese, he's referred to himself as a Nigerian. So, at the end of the day, he's born in Africa, he is African, but he does not reside here, and that is the fact. That is what makes me and him different.
So far, no response yet from the champ. However, he's made it incredibly clear that he hopes du Plessis wins so they can settle things inside the octagon. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Chael Sonnen thinks McGregor vs. Chandler could impact Jones vs. Miocic. When Conor McGregor fights, he headlines pay-per-views. As the best-selling fighter in UFC history, pay-per-view cards headlined by McGregor have dominated at the box office time and time again. When the former champ returns, the assumption is that he and Michael Chandler will headline whatever card he competes on. With Jon Jones recently stating that he wants one final fight against Stipe Miocic at the famous Madison Square Garden in New York City, and McGregor's return looking imminent for November or December, many have predicted that Jones will headline a card at the Madison Square Garden, with McGregor headlining the year-end card in Las Vegas. Despite that, Chael Sonnen seems to have his own theory. As he revealed in a video for his YouTube channel, 2 weeks ago, he predicted that McGregor and Chandler headline a card at the Madison Square Garden in November. Now he's back with another prediction regarding how a McGregor vs. Chandler fight could impact the upcoming Jones vs. Miocic fight, depending on when the fights are both booked.
If Conor and Chandler go to the top of the bill for the Garden in November, it means that Jones and Stipe come off the top of the bill.
Of course, the UFC could book the two super fights on different cards, giving fight fans two thrilling main events heading into the new year. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Dana White revealing sad news. It's been reported earlier that there's another class action lawsuit against Zuffa for the UFC's Fight Pass subscription plan, accusing them of engaging in an automatic renewal scheme. One fan commented in a post saying, "Yes, I effing had this happen. I had to change my bank card because it wouldn't effing stop." What do you think of this situation? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. Wonder what the Vegas odds will open at for the Usman vs. Khamzat fight. Best fight for that entire division, 100%. I'll believe Khamzat has a fight when I see him in the cage. I don't get why Jon Jones runs his mouth about Francis now that he's no longer with the UFC. You didn't say a word until after Francis left. Jones thinks Stipe is an easy win. I see a huge upset in Jones's future. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it.